What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk about WWE's SummerSlam 2019 pay-per-view, which just went down a little bit ago, and we are going to talk about everything from the top and the bottom of the card, all the results. We're going to recap everything that happened with all the matches. We're going to talk about our thoughts on all the different segments and everything else in between. And we are the usual suspects here. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Robert D. Felice.
Yo.
And Callum Wiggins.
I've got wrestling fatigue.
I've got...
And it's not... Your night's not even over, pal. Sorry.
Yeah, G1 starts in... What'd you say it was? Like 2.5 hours or something like that?
About 2-3 hours, something like
that. So you got even more to watch after that. But that's what happens in 2019. There's way too much to take on. Yet at the same time, this card kind of went between the idea of a little too much, and then they added more, and then they took things away, and it's kind of hard to keep track of where that all came about. And one of the things that we're going to have to address here is a glaring omission, but I don't know. That might have a big effect on how you think this card is. I'm seeing a lot of weird responses here. I see some people that liked SummerSlam quite a bit, and just like a quick scroll on Twitter, I'm seeing things of people putting like an overall meh. How you guys feeling about this right now?
I'm pretty positive coming out of the show. Considering how some of the build to the show was, I thought it delivered at a pretty fun level. Like, I'm not going to say it was the greatest wrestling show I've ever seen, but I was entertained pretty much throughout the entire thing. There are a few nitpicks, as there always are, but other than that, it was a solid show.
Very solid show, and I think it was a lot better than I could have ever expected it to be.
I'm mostly positive about this. I have some negatives, of course. You know, it's not that everything's perfect, and some things that I liked quite a bit, and some things that are kind of in the middle. It's sort of... This is one of those scenarios where I can jump the gun a little bit and say the end of it made me feel happier about something than I would have been on the flip side. Like, if this event, the exact same event, would have had a different ending, I'd be a lot more on the negative side. I'm teetering more like, I don't know, I'm 60-40 kind of a thing, I guess it was what I should say. So I want to know what everybody else has to say that's listening to this, and the ways that you can do that are, obviously, if you are on the audio-only platforms like iTunes and Google Play and Spotify and Stitcher and Anchor and Podbean and whatever, there's likely not a comment section, or if there is, I don't tend to check it, so there's no point in leaving a comment there, but you should leave a rating, and then you should hop on over to something else. You should go to either smarkoutmoment.com and leave a comment on the discuss things below the pages, or you should do, even better off, head on over to the YouTube and subscribe and ring that little bell for notifications and drop a comment below on the video. So tell us what you think throughout this whole night, what your thoughts are on all the things that we're going to be talking about here. And we're going to start things off with the pre-show. I missed a portion of the pre-show. I was focused on hearing some bad news and stuff. Not going to really get into it, but I didn't get a chance to write on some of those things, write up some of those things about like the backstage segments and stuff, so I don't remember any filler content. Was there anything that was like kind of like an interview or something on the panel or anything that stood out to you guys?
Did you miss the entire pre-show?
I watched the 3 matches in the Elias segment, but my attention was diverted for like the first half an hour or so quite a bit.
Yeah, that's about what I caught as well, so if there was any filler prior to that, Callum will have to fill us in.
I know better than to watch a pre-show.
Did you at least watch the Elias thing?
Yes, I watched the matches. I actually watched the matches, but I always have it on mute because I see Jonathan Coachman, and when I see Jonathan Coachman, I always hit the mute button. So,
yeah. So I don't know if there was any like good quips or something from Booker T to point out, and I apologize for everybody for not having that, notes.
I do remember that there was a segment where Drake Maverick came out with wanted posters looking for, and he obviously did that during the show as well, but he did it in the pre-show panel looking for R-Truth and Carmella.
And they were just hiding under the desk.
Yeah.
Looking great.
But other than that, there wasn't anything that caught my attention.
Well, we did, yeah. We were heavily involved in the Cruiserweight Championship match. Drew Gulak against Oney Lorcan. And
I don't want to take any credit for this.
Which one were you? Were you Oney Lorcan or Drew Gulak?
Both.
Sure,
I don't know. You didn't like this, Callum? I thought that it was fine from what I had seen.
It was just dull. Like it didn't really capture any sort of attention for me. I mean, it's not helped by the fact that the crowd was about half full at the time, so it's never going to lead anything positive to it. But I even thought by typical Cruiserweight kickoff show standards, this was a pretty nothing match.
Yeah, it was very dull, and I expected these two to tear it down, and they did not.
Then again, though, they didn't really have a whole much of build.
Guys
to
like this don't need build. No, guys like this don't need build. They're, by all standards, very good indie guys who should be able to just be booked on a card and tear the fucking house down, and they didn't.
I don't put a lot of the blame on them. Like you say, there wasn't a huge amount of build, and performing in front of an audience which is still filling in, and most of them don't give a fuck about you anyway because you're the cruiserweights, doesn't really help anybody in those sort of scenarios. But yeah, I can't be expected to just give them a pass or say that I enjoyed it if those circumstances are working against them.
Yeah, I mean, they still could have gone out there and had an amazing match that nobody was reacting to.
It was fine. Like it would be like a 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 out of 10 is 5 out of 10. Yeah, it was to pull a Drew White. Yeah, it was a match. I liked what I had seen, and what I did see didn't seem like it was anything like particularly crazy. So it's not the type of thing that normally it would be like, my God, you got to watch this Cruiserweight match. It seemed like it was just kind of there, but I didn't see anything bad. Drew Gulak retained by pinfall. He used his move that he's been using for quite a while there, so nothing shocking on that end. And they added Apollo Crews versus Buddy Murphy onto the card, which...
Have you ever seen more of a fucking, what is this? Clearly something is happening with Roman Reigns.
There's been a couple times where they've added something onto a pre-show, and I've been completely confused about why that's happened. Like, they put like a random Sin Cara tag team match on something one time years ago, and this was not what I was expecting. I figured if they were going to add any matches to the card, it was going to be that Cedric and Drew McIntyre one. And the chance of maybe Ali and Shinsuke Nakamura, or the chance of the New Day defending the SmackDown tag team titles, or anything that would be like that. And instead, with this, it was just kind of like, hey, we just added this match. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? Okay, that's at least a positive, is that you're showing off these two people. And the way that this ended was Buddy Murphy wins by disqualification because Rowan attacked him as retaliation for the whole, like, him pinpointing that Rowan was the one that attacked Roman Reigns backstage. So I like that they did some storyline telling like with that. That was cool.
Yeah, if you're going to do those sort of fuck finishes, you might as well do them on the kickoff show. And it has a bit of continuity with the Roman Reigns stuff. It means that maybe Murphy is going to be in a babyface role, fighting off against Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan alongside Roman Reigns, which could help get him over quite quickly. I just thought it was quite interesting because they spoke about the fact that this is Murphy's first match in WWE since joining SmackDown Live, and he joined SmackDown about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, superstar shakeup.
Yeah, so just how much he's been neglected and just cast away. And now he's come back, but hopefully they can actually do something with him now. I don't know whether Cruz was the right choice to have a match with, because Cruz is just worth absolutely nothing on the roster. Like, if I were him, I'd be counting down the days until my contract expired.
So if Buddy is Castaway, does that make Apollo Wilson?
Wilson was the best part of that fucking movie.
Sure was.
Like, there's no question about it. I walked out of that film just thinking to myself, all right, well, I want Wilson, and I never want to be stranded on an island. Just kind of, yeah. he starts doing some kind of a volleyball gimmick, we know where that's coming from. People listening to Smack Talk. I'm a little bit worried, though, that this is going to fall into let's sacrifice Buddy Murphy because we can't have Roman Reigns look weak territory. Or maybe this is just a byproduct of that weird booking that they did with Samoa Joe. Because Joe is fighting with Roman Reigns, and he's been a full-blown heel since literally the first time that he was on the main roster, because he came out attacking Seth Rollins. He's never been anything but a heel. And he's been in a heel most of his time in NXT. So with the setup that they did with the whole car accident thing, he suddenly turned on a dime and he was acting more like a babyface. And there's some rumors and some reports and dirt sheet, scuttlebutt and whatever, that their idea is that all the heels are still bad guys, but in comparison to Daniel Bryan, it's just like, oh, that crosses the line. Kind of like, there's a great DC thing, and they've done it in a couple different mediums and stuff, but they say when the villains want to scare each other, they tell Joker stories, which is really cool. And I guess that they want to take inspiration a little bit from that to make it where it's like Daniel Bryan's the most evil of the whole bunch. So if Buddy Murphy is doing that just because they want to push him aside, and it's like, well, even Buddy Murphy's not that bad, this might be the end of it. But I'm really getting a little bit nervous that maybe on SmackDown it's going to be like, we're going to book Rowan against Buddy Murphy, and Rowan's going to beat the shit out of him. At that point, Buddy Murphy's waited a couple of months to wrestle a match where he won by DQ after getting his ass beat, and then he gets beaten up. That's not going to do anything good for him, you know?
Well, it's that argument of it's either he does that or he's just not used at all. I mean, you look at things what they're doing with Mike Kanellis at the moment. Is that better or worse than not being on television at all? And
well, that's better
would have
for Mike Kanellis, because Mike Kanellis I don't think has anything. But Buddy Murphy, I think that they could have used him, and I don't want them to crap on that and ruin that.
Well, I think there could be potential going forward from it. I think it might initially start with him just getting beaten up, but there might be things going forward. I mean, to be fair, the only thing that I'm really looking forward out of all this is that we're probably going to get a Buddy Murphy against Daniel Bryan match. So, and that'll be awesome.
Hopefully that's where they go. It's that Buddy Murphy gets involved in this a little bit, and he gets some time to shine, and they don't just kind of use him as a stepping stone. But I'm a little bit worried about that. At the very least on SummerSlam, though, this was kind of neat. So this is still more of a positive than a negative.
I like the idea, and I hope they do it more, doing angles on the kickoff and making you feel like, oh, I would have felt like I was missing out if I missed this.
Yeah, it's a better use of the kickoff than to just be like, all right, we've got 2 hours. How do we fill it up? I know. We can have people cut promos on the match that they're about to have, you know? I like it when they do more fun things, and one of those was also the next segment that happened after this, which they had Elias come out. He did his usual musical stuff, crapping on Toronto and whatever, but Edge comes out, and it's funny enough, we're all sitting there hanging out in the basement, and everybody's like, Edge, yeah, he's not allowed to do anything, is he? No, he's like pretty beaten up, and I think that he's not allowed to get like any kind of contact or whatever. Oh, look at that. He just fucking speared him. Okay. Like, didn't see that one coming. Is that the first time that Edge has done anything physical?
It is the first time in 8 years that Edge has done anything offensively. I think the most he did was that one spot at the end of 2014 where Rollins threatened to curb stomp him and Big Show just kind of gingerly held him to the floor. But I lost my mind. Because much like you, I was just talking to my friend, and we were kind of playing a game, not paying attention. And it was like, oh, Edge is here. That's cool. I guess he's going to tell Elias that he sucks. Maybe ask him to play some Pearl Jam. And that'll be it. And then all of a sudden I said, oh, shit, he speared him. And, like, right away, I was just a fan and just a child and, like, a fan of Edge. And it was probably my favorite moment of the night. From sheer just happiness.
My issue with this segment is what does it actually accomplish? I mean, if it's just a one-off, oh, Edge is back, cool, just hit the spear on Elias because Elias is just the joke character, then yeah, it's cool. One off, just get it out there. Nice pop for the home crowd. Let's move on with it. But it's the fact that Edge decided to do the spear, do a move for the first time in 8 years, as it were, and people are going to start thinking, oh, is Edge healthy? Could Edge maybe do one final match? And even if Edge is healthy enough to do one final match, I wouldn't feel comfortable with him doing one final match just because of the nature of his injury.
Yeah, well, you're not going to see, I don't know, maybe we will do it this week. One more match, Edge. Oh, no, this week's G1 Climax breakdown. I don't know, if we have the time, maybe we'll do it. But I thought this was cool. I do agree with you, if it doesn't go anywhere, it is kind of like, well, is it just for the pop? But at the same time, there's that part of me that goes, yeah, but I popped for it, you know?
Yeah, I don't think there's any issue with it if it's just a one-off, like popping the crowd, especially if it's in Toronto. And also, if you were to do one more match with Edge, I can pretty much guarantee you that it's not going to be Elias.
No. We can spoil that ahead of time. The three of us, I'm assuming Rob, or we're not going to pick Elias, right?
No, it's not Elias.
Yeah, so that was fun. Then we had another impromptu match, which was the women's tag team titles on the line between the Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross team that have just won the titles this past Monday, and the IIconics, who had previously been the champions, in a heel versus heel match. You don't see that all that often. And
with Bliss and Cross kind of being the baby faces of the match, right?
Yeah, they played de facto babyface to the point where they were having fun. Like, Alexa Bliss came out dressed up as Buzz Lightyear, which thumbs up on the outfit. And she even did a little thing where if you've seen Toy Story, which you should because it's amazing, there's a part where he's using his arm laser and he's just kind of like, that's just a blinking light. It's not like a real laser or whatever. And she was pretending like she had that, and then it's like, oh, that doesn't work. I like that. Like, that was one of my favorite parts of the whole kickoff, was that little moment.
Alexa Bliss is right up there with Gargano for me for Gear of the Year. I thought this was fantastic. My question is, do you think she broke up with Murphy by saying, "You've got a friend in me"?
I wish I could think of another one to respond with that. Now I'm blanking on Toy Story stuff.
I'm not going to think of anything in that sort of. I don't want to fill that sort of gap. I mean, in terms of the actual match, well, in terms of what they should have said in the end of it, because I'm surprised, especially with all the annoying Disney references that Graves was making and everyone else were in commentary, that they didn't say "falling with style" for the Twisted Bliss at the end of it. Just seems like a really wasted opportunity.
Yeah, because Graves was hitting hard with the Toy Story references.
Yeah, I thought that was really obnoxious. I know he's a heel, so he should be obnoxious, but that was overboard for me.
See,
I like the VR.
I didn't hear that. So, like, what type of references was he saying?
He wasn't saying references. He was just saying like, "Oh, why? I thought Moana was going to turn up and fight these people, or oh, we're going to see something with Lilo and Stitch or whatever."
And then when they won, he just yells at Phillips, "Come on, Andy, tell me a story."
Oh, like, I got it. This is how she broke up with him. She said, "You're a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell." That's how she did. You would think it's something eventually.
Oh, God.
Oh, see, that's the benefit of me not paying attention to the commentary team. I missed out on those lame attempts at Disney thing.
The VR shit is always weird for me, but for whatever reason, I got a pop for the giant Bliss and cross emojis. I thought it was so weird that it worked for me.
I got a feeling while watching this match, and by the IIconics standard, this was a fine match. It wasn't spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, but it was perfectly fine for what it was. But I just watched this match and think, wow, Candice LeRae and Io Shirai are in developmental right now.
Yep, I'll 100%. I'm with Callum.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. LeRae and Shirai put on a hell of a lot better match than this was.
Yeah, and that's not really fair to those ones. Everyone has a different level that they compete at. The weirdest thing for me was seeing Alexa Bliss get a hot tag. It's like she's coming in as the baby face with the fire afterwards. And again, it's fine. There was this really nice spot where Alexa Bliss dodged a roundhouse kick by Peyton Royce, but then got her leg caught and put into a Widow's Peak type move by Royce, and that was a nice sequence. But other than that, it was just it's pretty standard. There was nothing abjectly wrong with this match, other than the fact that I really think that the IIconics' strikes need a lot of work.
Now, this wasn't the match they're supposed to do tomorrow. They're supposed to defend against Fire and Desire tomorrow, right?
No, it's
Kabuki
Kabuki Warriors.
Okay.
But I do
Well-
really like that they did this match because it kind of gives a little bit of closure to the titles.
Dash Wilder tweeted, "Good job to all 4 women." I guess he was really happy to see the tag team titles get defended. Surprisingly, they were the only tag titles defended. And I don't know, I still feel like they have zero direction for these titles. And it's just like, well, they're on Alexa Bliss, so because we want to use Bliss, we will effectively use the titles.
Yeah, we talked about it before. You put it on somebody who you want to use, and suddenly the titles are being useful. And if not, then it's going to be on a Shinsuke Nakamura where you just don't do anything for like 7 months. But I do like that they added this into there. I think that they did a decent job in the match itself. The match is not going to be one of those match of the year candidates or something, but heel versus heel can be difficult. And especially with, the IIconics have never been like the best in-ring performers, and Alexa Bliss has never been somebody who is really like focusing on her in-ring work more than her character work. And I thought this was, overall, it was fun. It was a good addition to the kickoff more than anything. So I got a thumbs up for me too.
Yeah.
I think that was it for the kickoff, right? Anything else?
No, that was it. But I wanted to bring up something that I think both me and Rob were struggling with throughout the night, which was WWE Network problems. Because I started experiencing them during the kickoff and pretty much throughout the first couple of hours of the show. Because I was streaming it through my PS4. And it was stopping pretty regularly and then trying to catch up. So you'd have segments where it just froze for about 20 seconds or whatever. And then at some point down the road, it would try and catch up the 20 seconds they had lost. And so it would just fast forward through the rest of them. There's something problematic in the way the WWE Network currently functions on that platform.
There are a lot of problems. Right around the middle of the show is when this really kicked in for me. And I missed the majority of the Shane McMahon Kevin Owens match. The Trish Charlotte match gave me problems for like the first third of it. This was bad, and they need to fix their network because it really hindered me watching the show. If it continued to the point where I missed Charlotte and Trish, I would have just stopped watching the show altogether.
I didn't have a whole lot of problems. There were a couple spots where it did that, where it just sort of had to catch up to itself and everything, but it wasn't really all that bad. So maybe I just got lucked out. I don't know.
Well, what does Dace watched it on?
It's either PlayStation 4 or I think it's PlayStation 4.
Oh, speaking of Dace, Tony, the network. I went to go get ice cream, so I put it on my phone, and my PlayStation stream immediately stopped and said, "You've reached the limit of streams that you can watch."
Did they change the stream
I think they
limit
finally put it to where you can only watch 1, maybe 2 at a time. But I think that I know of, nobody else is using my network. So I think they finally fixed it to where only one person can watch at a time.
Huh. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, so kickoff out of the way. Let's go into the first match of the actual card, which was the submission match for the Raw Women's Championship between Becky Lynch and Natalya. Good opening match. Not anything that I really have anything to say about, though.
Really?
Yeah, I just like, it was good.
Hold for hold, this might have been my favorite match of the show.
Well, good for you.
I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought it was probably the best told story and the best well wrestled match of the night. But like I said, I did have problems throughout the night, so maybe you guys saw a better match than I did.
Well, the main event was the best match of the night by a country mile, so that's probably where it goes down for me.
What country?
At least Russia.
Well, I like the match. I like the story with Natty really going after Becky's legs. I think maybe Natty should have held on a little bit longer in the disarmor before tapping, but I thought it was a really good match.
I think it was fine. It was definitely a good match, and I think they worked really hard and put together a good story. I think there was quite a nice spot early on in the match where Natalya puts the sharpshooter on through the ring ropes, essentially, when she's standing on the turnbuckle, which I thought was I've never seen that before. So if you can put something innovative into a match, then I'm all for it. But I just didn't get too connected to this match. It just felt like I never felt Becky's reign was in jeopardy at any point.
That's true.
Felt like it was more in jeopardy than I. No, not that I could have. Like,
It was
I guess
more
the
than
better way to
Lacey
put
Evans
this is,
matches.
yeah, like it's Natalya put up more of a fight in this than I gave her credit for. Yet at the same time, I do agree. I never really thought that she was actually going to tap out. So it's kind of like a mixed bag.
It was interesting with the crowd booing Natalya pretty much from the start onwards. They clearly were more behind Becky Lynch, despite the fact that they were in Canada.
Yeah, which is good. It speaks to the fact that Becky's popularity is holding up. I think maybe part of the reason it connected with me is because Natalya, in a lot of ways, to me, feels like the female Ziggler, where you never really feel like she's going to win. So with her at least putting up a good showing, I felt more invested in the match than I had been going into it.
Yeah. Where do you guys see this going from the future?
Nowhere.
Natalya's out of the title picture now. I don't know who will be the next person to challenge Lynch at this point. There doesn't seem like there's a ready-made challenger set up.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, in all likelihood, it's probably going to be Charlotte. So, unless Charlotte's going after Bayley, which I guess being
Either
on
way,
SmackDown, it makes it like. But Charlotte's getting another title shot down the road,
especially a Clash of Champions, because it's in Charlotte. So Charlotte's going to get the title shot in Charlotte.
Yeah, but that could be Bayley.
Oh yeah,
Could be.
Yeah, but I just don't know who. If it's not Charlotte, then who's really set up? I mean, Naomi. I mean, to be fair, they pulled Natalya out of nowhere to challenge Lynch because it was in Canada. But there's not really anyone else that's ready-made at the moment. I mean, Sasha Banks is on the sideline still, ready to come back pretty much whenever they have a plan for her and she's willing to come back. Naomi's there, Carmella, Lana.
What's the status of Ruby Riott right now?
I mean, she was pretty badly injured, wasn't she? So, and it was only a few months ago that she got injured, so I think she's probably still out for a while. If they want to push Sarah Logan high up, or we're still waiting on the Liv Morgan makeover and see where that leads. But yeah, there is absolutely no ready-made challenger for Lynch at the moment.
Yeah, they have options, but they're not strong ones.
I guess tomorrow night we'll figure that out. Or maybe they'll figure it out 20 minutes into the episode tomorrow night. The way that things have been going lately. Very quickly, let me just bring something up for anybody that is interested. If you are interested in more talk about some stuff like the Toy Story stuff, I wanted to mention this. You can check out things like that on fanboysanonymous.com. And that is where I've got all the movie-related stuff, other than quick little mentions that we do here on this show. But the review points and things with TV sides of things and comic books and video games and whatever else that I get time to do, then you will find that on fanboysanonymous.com. So head on over there, subscribe on YouTube, follow Facebook and Twitter. Do the same, obviously, for Smark Out Moment. Both of those are at Smark Out Moment. Fanboys is Fanboys Anon on Twitter, Fanboys Anonymous on Facebook. And just kind of pay attention to that. And we will hit some other plugs a little bit later on as well. But let's move on to Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler. Obviously, this was going to be Dolph Ziggler getting his ass beat, so Dolph Ziggler got his ass beat. But I found this to be a really fun segment because what they had done, for anybody who didn't check it out, was Dolph Ziggler starts off the match with 2 super kicks, and then it goes into Goldberg beating his ass. Goldberg wins, but Ziggler gets a mic, and he starts talking some smack about the idea of, I know you didn't want to fight me like a man or whatever. So Goldberg spears him again. Then Ziggler grabs the mic again. Anybody could get lucky twice. And Goldberg just, all right, fuck, I gotta do this a third time. So spears him again. The third spear was the best, I think.
My God, by a mile.
And that just puts a button on the whole thing. I thought that this was so fun.
Fantastic.
It was good. I thought it dragged a little bit on the third one because you start watching it, and based on the projections for how long the show is going to be, I was thinking, okay, so you're going to drag this, what should have been done in 5 minutes out to 15 minutes. Okay, that's where the show's going to go long. But as the show didn't actually end up going too far beyond what I was expecting it to, then this is totally fine. It's good to see Ziggler getting beaten up. It's always enjoyable.
We might as well talk about this. Matt Riddle was in the watch along the whole night and told the story of when he finally met Goldberg and said that Goldberg, bumped into him and he's like, "Hey, we need to talk, don't we?" And Matt Riddle, in Matt Riddle style, goes, "Okay, bro." And basically Goldberg just goes, "I'm not your bro." And that was the extent of their interaction. Goldberg's not his bro, and Matt Riddle sat there the entire match and talked about how he could beat up Goldberg in 2 minutes, and that was also an extra layer of entertainment to this whole thing. Matt Riddle and Shayna Baszler were in the watch-along lounge just goofing on Goldberg.
I think I don't know. I know Riddle is obviously angling for a match with Goldberg, or at least to try and get some sort of attention for the main roster pretty soon. But I don't know whether going about it the way that he is going about, just the fact of saying that he's going to kick Goldberg's ass all the time is going to get him that far.
Yeah, probably won't. But speaking of the segment and things that are different, Ziggler used the term dipshit on the microphone, which I thought was funny. And Goldberg's entrance, maybe this is the entire reason they brought in Pyro for SummerSlam, but Goldberg needs Pyro, and I'm glad he had Pyro, and I'm glad he didn't crash his head through a door.
It's not a bad thing that you have to say out there. It's like, good thing he didn't get concussed ahead of this match. Let's see what we had after this. We had a backstage segment with R-Truth, not R-Truth, with Drake Maverick looking for R-Truth and hanging out with the New Day a little bit. Anything out of that you guys want to talk about?
Just Woods' hair.
Yeah.
But that was pretty cool. But I was slightly concerned about the fact that you said R-Truth and it's the 3 other black guys in the Cardiff.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes and it says Drake Maverick looking for R-Truth, and I'm like, oh, R-Truth was in the segment, and then I'm like, wait, no, wasn't that?
No, but it's just
R-Truth was in the next segment, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, because they went to the obviously before we'll talk about the next match, but they decided to use the opportunity to go for the international announce team, and there's R-Truth and Carmella being international announcers.
They were Celine Dion and Dwayne Gretzky, which I didn't get it at first because they're just going through the here's a Russian team, here's this, and I just thought it was 2 people like, hey, we're in Canada, we're Celine Dion and Wayne Gretzky, and then I thought, wait, that's truth, and I'm a little sad we didn't get any payoff here. Like, you never see Drake Maverick actually get to R-Truth, but whenever Truth is on TV, he's golden, and I give him all the belts.
That led into the United States Championship match. AJ Styles successfully defending against Ricochet. I had talked before about the idea that, they were good matches before, but I had already seen them, so I wasn't really all that much into the idea that they weren't going to do anything more than I've already seen. But I did like the match, and they did do a couple things in here that I thought that I hadn't really seen before. I like the part where he steps on Gallows and Anderson and hits the Hurricanrana on Styles. Big fan of the finish. Jumping off the ropes and getting caught in a Styles clash. So overall, I liked it. I'm done with this feud, and I don't want to see them fight anymore, but I liked it, so can't crap on something that I enjoyed, you know what I mean?
Even though Ricochet is a very good-looking person and shouldn't be covering his abs, I thought the Nightwing attire was awesome. I thought, if anybody's gonna dress like a superhero, it should be somebody that can actually fly about as much as a human can. And AJ Styles should definitely move on to, I don't know who, because I was going to say Rey Mysterio, but I kind of think he's locked with Andrade. But I think it's time for a new babyface to step up and challenge AJ.
I was really impressed with Ricochet selling in this match, because it's not something that you typically associate with him, because he's such a frequent high flyer and an indie spot guy that you wouldn't actually assume that he knows psychology well enough. But it's the idea of AJ targeted the leg, and Ricochet sold that leg the entire match, because there was this one point where he does his springboard clothesline and he leaps off the top rope on one leg onto Styles, and I thought, okay, this guy's really taking this sell job seriously, and he carried it for the rest of the match. Everything that he landed on it awkwardly, he sold it. It led to the calf crusher spot, and then into the Anaconda Vice, which got some brief CM Punk chants, because people don't know when to let go. But it was. I thought the finish, obviously, the corkscrew spinning into the Styles Clash, was a really unique finish. So, yeah, this was a really good match. I think the crowd wasn't as invested in it as I would have hoped they would be, but it was very well told story and a very strong match.
Now I'm going to ask the same kind of question I ask a lot. Where do you guys see these two going? I think that Ricochet, now he needs to move on, and they need to figure out something else to make him stand out a little bit, but I don't know who you can really feud him with that it'll be worth it. And at the same time, I don't know who I would go with for the next challenger for AJ Styles.
Well, for Ricochet, it's either you get mired in the mid-card for a little while and you're just infrequently in matches with people like Cesaro or Andrade or something along those lines. But the Fiend won't be wrestling Finn Balor anymore going forward. So
Cedric Alexander. I'm looking through the roster, and that name really sticks out.
Was potential challenger for AJ Styles.
Yeah, for AJ, yeah.
He's got to go through Drew McIntyre first, though. I think that they would need to have him beat McIntyre, and then that sucks for McIntyre.
Strowman is an option, obviously. He's not doing anything at the moment, and he's one guy that could deal with the fact that Styles is working with two other people on his side.
Looking at the group right now that's on Raw, I mean, they've got the wild card rule, so they can just fuck around with that, but nobody's really... Maybe The Miz, if they move past this Dolph Ziggler thing, that could maybe work. Because it's not going to be Heath Slater. It's not going to be like Eric from the fucking Viking Raiders. I was going to call them the Viking Experience. Don't like that at all. It's not good.
Maybe Cesaro turns babyface?
That's tough. I mean, maybe they don't even have a game plan. I guess we're going to see tomorrow night. But at least for this segment, I enjoyed that. After they did that, they did the Street Profits backstage, Ric Flair hanging around, just having some fun. I didn't write down the Bret Hart thing. That was when did the Bret Hart and Seth Rollins thing pop up? We should talk about it now anyway. What the hell? Bret Hart popped up and said like, "Hey, go get him, champ."
Yeah, that was after the Charlotte Trish match.
Because
I found it quite interesting, because it was like Rollins was just sitting there getting taped up and the crowd is booing him, and then Bret Hart's here, so yeah, we'll start cheering.
How do you guys feel about the whole idea of using the legends like that? I'm
I
fine
think
with
it's
it.
the perfect use for a legend. You know, Bret Hart was seen as an underdog throughout his career, and that was kind of the first inkling I had of, well, I'd hate for Bret Hart to give him his blessing in Canada, and then he goes out there and loses. So I thought that was interesting. And of course, we got to talk about the whole Bret Hart blaming Seth Rollins meme. So it was even funnier because of that.
I think it's short, sweet, just nice little segments where they just get a cheap pop for being legends, and you overstay your welcome. It's the complete opposite of the Raw reunion show.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we went into the SmackDown Women's Championship match between Bayley and Ember Moon, which resounding meh to me. Didn't feel like this was really all that great. Wasn't awful. I don't want anybody to do that whole extreme thing where everything's like it's the best thing in the world or it's the worst garbage match that's ever happened in history. But I didn't feel like this was a championship match. I didn't feel like they did enough to kind of counteract the idea that Ember Moon wasn't really built all that strong leading up to this. I don't feel like Bayley got anything out of beating Ember Moon. I just feel like this just happened, and all right, let's just move past it, you know?
Yeah,
It didn't even get a video package or anything. It was very clear this was the weaker women's match on the card. And unfortunately, it played out like that in the ring as well. I wasn't wowed by anything in this match. And by the end of it, I just felt like, yeah, Ember, this was cool, but it wasn't enough to go, okay, she's a main event player.
yeah, I pretty much echo those points. It's just there was nothing inherently wrong with the match, but the crowd clearly weren't invested in it, and they didn't really have any reason to be. Ember Moon had been built up badly. Bayley hasn't really pulled up any trees as the women's champion. So you're not really going to get a huge reaction if you're just bringing in two people that are pretty cold into the show. There were a few like decent spots that Ember Moon and Bayley put together with like Frankensteiner from the top rope and this unique looking code breaker spot. And then they finished with a top rope belly to Bayley. So it's not it had its moments where you get the crowd slightly excited, but overall it was just a very nothing match that probably you could have taken out of this card and it wouldn't have affected it any way whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm disappointed as well that there was no like surprise Sasha Banks appearance or a maneuver that would have stood out to me or just kind of anything. It had happened and there weren't any big problems. So I guess that's something, but I feel very, very underwhelmed with this whole thing. And it started out pretty decently interesting because it was like, oh, Ember Moon's going to get a title shot. That's different. They're going in a different direction than I would have assumed, and that's kind of neat. And then they just crapped all over this every week afterward. It's such a shame. Now I feel like Ember Moon's at a point where she clearly is never going to win the championship. So why should I ever get invested in her, you know?
Well, I think it only had about 2 to 3 weeks to do something with it, and I'm not going to belabor the point here, but the whole Charlotte and Trish was the big women's match built on SmackDown.
Yeah, I think that Ember Moon is going to get the Naomi treatment, whereas if she's around for another 2 or 3 years, she'll probably get a run with the title,
a trophy run.
Yeah, just that's like a more long service award as opposed to a championship belt, really. But yeah, she just doesn't seem like there's real investment in her being a championship contender.
Let's see what we had after this. I went into the Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon match where Kevin Owens had his career on the line. And I'd been very down on this before, but I have to eat a little bit of crow when it comes to that because I like this quite a bit. This was a fun segment. They booked it really well. I liked the addition of Elias on the outside and the way that they used him. I like the finish of it. This was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
I think we need to start taking maybe a bit of a step back with this Shane McMahon thing, because admittedly it isn't fun television. He is greatly overexposed. But this was the first match of the entire show that really captured the crowd's imagination a great deal. And Owens felt as more over as a babyface than he has done in years, essentially, as part of the main roster. And part of that is due to the fact that Shane has been built up as such an obnoxious, hateful heel that people just want to see get his ass kicked. So I think that you sometimes get blinkered when you're watching this thing of just thinking, oh, this isn't leading anywhere, or oh, Shane's not a good wrestler, so he can't get involved in that sort of thing. And it kind of just doesn't need to be, as long as the people he's working around are doing good stuff alongside him. He is winning too many matches, but maybe that's all just built up to this big crescendo of, oh, yay, we finally see a guy who actually will beat him up and not take any shit from him. I thought this was a lot of fun.
I'm definitely of that camp of saying this was surprisingly well, so end on a high note. Leave this Shane McMahon stuff alone. Don't even bother doing anything more with it. This should be just like, that's it. And there's no like definitive Shane McMahon has to lose and leave WWE type of thing or something. There's no resolution like that, but there doesn't necessarily need to be, because this is just like, all right, that's good. It's SummerSlam. That's over with. Let's just have Shane disappear for a little while.
I think it's going to need that finality to it.
Yeah. Because they made it clear he's still very much in power. It was just, okay, he got beat, finally.
I think there are a few like nice touches in the match in terms of Kevin Owens coming out in a Toronto Raptors themed attire, which is as if he needed to pander to the crowd anymore. Then Elias's constant interference to help Shane get an edge, and every time Owens was about to win, he gets involved to stop it. The finish I thought was really, really good, with Owens hitting a senton and a frog splash. So it's usually some of my issues with Shane matches is the idea of, if he's being a heel, why is he the one doing all of the really cool spots? And Shane didn't really do anything super cool or amazing in this match. It was all Owens going all out to do this stuff. And then beats up Elias with a steel chair, and then when he goes to hit Shane with a steel chair, the referee sees him and is about to tell him to stop and get the chair out, and Owens takes advantage of that with a low blow, because he is this generation Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he can get away with doing like cheating to win as long as it's fair game, essentially. Then hits the stunner to win. It was, the crowd was far more into this match and more invested in it than anything else so far in the night. So it's all good.
Yeah, positives.
Then we went to Charlotte Flair versus Trish Stratus, and if we're going to talk about all those positives, I unfortunately cannot talk about that when it comes to this. I thought that this was slow and boring and botchy and just not good.
I completely disagree. I thought it was a great match. Maybe not great, but very good. I think
I missed the first chunk of it, but from what I saw, I had a lot of fun.
I think it's a testament to how good Charlotte is in the ring. Because even though I stood up for Trish's ability, I would still stand up for Trish's ability in the sense of, this isn't Trish Stratus in her prime wrestling Charlotte. I think we'd have a completely different story in that regard in terms of the match reaching a whole different level. You have to take the fact that Stratus is 43 years old and hasn't wrestled in a consistent basis since 2006. So it's hard to really just turn it on when you have to. But I think for what it was supposed to be, in terms of Charlotte taking control of the most part, dominating it, doing a lot of trash talking, working over Trish's legs, and Trish then coming back with the like babyface comeback, the you still got a chance, all of that stuff. I think it was a well-told match. Certainly not the greatest match that I've ever seen, but for what it was, I wasn't expecting anything a lot better than this.
Yeah,
So
I thought it was a good way for Trish to end her time in wrestling. She's been really outspoken that this is her last match. There was no other way to have this match go than have Charlotte tap her out. But I enjoyed the spots of, like, she puts Charlotte in the figure 8, but she couldn't hold it because, she doesn't have the same core strength because she doesn't do this all the time. And the Stratus faction looked as good as ever. It was a good match.
There were botches, like the chick kick didn't look good at all, but I think that's partly due to the fact that Charlotte is so much taller than Trish that it's hard to get your leg up that high to do that sort of move. And there are a few little sloppy like arm drags and drop kicks and stuff along those lines, but I think for the most part she held her own. I think the trading chops that they did were really good. Trish's chops looked as good as Charlotte's did.
See, I just kind of feel like this match, if you took Trish and you replaced her with anybody that was on the roster, and it didn't have that whole, like, well, we're going to cut her some slack because of this and that kind of thing, I feel like people would absolutely crap all over it.
But it doesn't have that. Yeah, but that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, like, you not necessarily even have to cut her some slack. It's Trish Stratus, and it was as good of a Legends match as we've seen in recent months with all the stupid Saudi shows.
Yeah,
but see, I would make fun of those, and I'll talk about problems with that every single time, because I think that every match needs to be held to the standards of what it's being advertised for, and this was being advertised as this legend who can go and is this great one. It's going to wrestle her last match, and it's going to be this great thing, and it's going to be the best women's wrestlers of all time kind of a thing. And it's like, nah, it wasn't really.
Yeah, we're never going to see eye to eye on this one.
Yeah, because you can't turn back the clock essentially and do that sort of thing. You have to take that kind of situation of either you never see this match because essentially you can't go back and turn back time, or it's just on the lines of, or you see the match and you have to take the perspective of it's not going to be as great as it could have been if they were both in their prime.
And then there's the glaring issue that I think for us it's different because we watched Trish. I think you fell out of it right as Trish was coming into her own as a worker. So you probably don't even have that connection of, yeah, Trish was a legend, can go.
But then, like, if we give a pass to this, why aren't we giving it more of a pass to Goldberg and Undertaker? I mean, this wasn't as bad as that. Like, there's no way.
No, yeah, because that match was dangerous. They could have killed each other. This match had no chance of like either two injuring each other at any point.
I think that sometimes it's a little bit of there's a little bit of a double standard when it comes to that, and I think that if you said that this was Ruby Riott instead of Trish Stratus, people would be like, "Oh, that was sloppy. This didn't work. This whatever," And then I'm not as willing to forgive that and to say that I loved a match that I thought was really slow just because it's an older person and because she's not Ric Flair trying to do something in the ring right now. She's in her 40s, but she's a yoga instructor. How come she couldn't fall down quicker and stuff? You know what I mean? Like that.
Because I think this is such a niche performance art that you can't just, you can be as athletically trained as possible, but if you haven't done this, it's just different. And I'll give her about as much of a pass as I gave Shawn Michaels at Crown Jewel. Was it sloppy? Yeah, but it was Shawn Michaels and he still outshined the other three dudes in the match. And I think Trish Stratus would easily outperform any other legend from that era.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I can understand like just taking it in a vacuum, the fact that the match isn't particularly good. But if you take any of those matches, like go back in time and watch The Rock against Hulk Hogan, if you just take watch it on mute, that match sucks. But it's like you add the crowd reaction to it, and that match becomes infinitely better. I think you need to watch it with that sort of just changed perspective, and maybe that isn't fair on other people, but I wouldn't hold them to too high of a standard if they haven't been in the ring for that length of time. They can't all be Shawn Michaels that can come back after a length of time and just hit the ground running again.
Yeah, they all should be, though. We're splitting hairs. I didn't like it. You loved it. Fair is fair. I was very disappointed in the finish for the WWE Championship match between Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton. I know that I'm not alone in that one because the crowd was not into that at all. And the match, honestly, was a little bit underwhelming too, leading up to that. I was willing to give it more of a benefit of the doubt if it would have ended in an actual finish. Yet they did that type of crap where they've done many times in the past where getting that feeling that they were just sort of like, oh, we really don't want to focus on something that much different for Clash of Champions. I don't know. How about we do a non-finish, and that way they can just over the next 3 weeks just
They're going
not
to Hell
do
in a
anything.
Cell.
Yeah,
They're going inside Hell in a Cell.
they do the non-finish here, double count out. They'll do something at Clash of Champions, and maybe Kingston will just retain the title there by a pinfall, and Randy Orton will attack him afterward or something, and then they'll do the Hell in a Cell match. And I hate it when I look at a WWE match and I think the booking of that was almost entirely done because they just want to say, let's stretch it out and be lazy.
Well, with these two, it's different. There are some key factors coming up that I think you're going to be able to play around with when it comes to this rivalry. But before I get to that, I just want to talk about the match. It was average, but nothing sucks me into the moment in a Randy Orton match that when he's wrestling a high flyer and I just scream at the TV, please God, don't jump at him. Because you know that RKO is coming. Like, I felt it when it came, but as soon as they cut to the shot of his family, I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're doing the Joe AJ finish, basically from last year. And I think it's good. It shows Kingston has a fire that, this is more personal for him, where his title reign was about the New Day. This is about Kofi Kingston. I really like that. I like the aftermath and the beatdown. And they're going to Madison Square Garden on September 12th or whatever it is. And he's doing that spot where he crashes through him from the top of the balcony. And I think they have an Extreme Rules match at Clash of Champions.
I think this match was a real disappointment. And it's a shame because the match I was most looking forward to going into it, and it ended up being my lowest point in the entire show. I just think it becomes so evident watching these matches that Randy Orton is a one-move wrestler. You're just waiting for the RKO and everything else around it. It's just stalling for the RKO. Because he just watch, he's so uninspiring for someone who has so much talent to just do so little with it. And I find, I know I've spoken in the past about how that wrestling is do as little as possible for the greatest possible return, but you can go overboard with it, especially if that's basically been your MO for the last 10 years or so.
Admittedly, this was the match that I chose to walk away and go get ice cream. But the ice cream did make it better.
What type of ice cream?
Moose Tracks, so vanilla with Reese's Pieces and chocolate.
I mean, you kind of can't go wrong with something like that.
Yeah.
But it was just along the lines of, and also Kingston still hasn't had that defining match yet, which I'm a little disappointed about because it's SummerSlam, it's a big stage to do it. This could have been the moment where he just gets the monkey off his back with Orton. If you want to extend the feud out, you could have Orton attack him afterwards, beat him up, and then lead it down the line. But why not give Kingston that definitive win just to shed the idea of he is on Randy Orton's level? Because if this all just leads to Hell in a Cell and Orton just wins, and if they do Clash of Champions and they just stall on that one and then it leads to Hell in a Cell and Orton wins that one, then it really just feels like not so much the title reign was all for nothing, but
you didn't want to go all the way and give him that win.
It's just like you never saw you gave Kingston the title because obviously he got a groundswell of popularity when you had an opportunity to actually make him not like win the WWE Championship years down the line again, but make him some guy who could be in and around the upper mid card and occasionally move back into the main event and going forward. Just like you made it so obvious that Orton is at a level that Kingston can never ascend to, which is the complete opposite of how this story should end.
On the Kofi Kingston 24 special, there was talk by Big E about the Golden Circle and how you can tell that Kingston isn't in that Golden Circle. And if you look at the caliber of opponents that he's beaten Kevin Owens, who has super popular right now, but flounders every now and again. Dolph Ziggler, who is, the epitome of main event level job guy, and he's beaten Samoa Joe, who they just don't want to give a title to. I think if you go 3 matches and he doesn't get at least a win in one of them, then you have effectively said that he's not on that level, and that would be a mistake.
See, here's how I would have done this. If they would have pitched to me, we want Orton to have this, the Orton and Kingston thing has to stretch out to Hell in a Cell. We want to do it at SummerSlam, we want to do it at Hell in a Cell. How do we get there? I would have been like, all right, well, I think you need a break. And this is something that doesn't happen all that often, so I would always like something that would be a little bit different, too, is if Kofi Kingston beats Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Randy Orton attacks him after the match or something. They maybe have some kind of a confrontation during SmackDown the next week or so. Because we've got, the September 17th, I think, is Clash of Champions.
5 weeks to Clash of Champions.
So we got a little bit of time. And in that time, Orton and Kingston still share some words, but there's a new challenger that gets determined. And maybe it's like Kingston and Orton have enough of a problem with each other that when Randy Orton is in this battle royal or this fatal 4-way or whatever the case may be, however you want to crown a new contender, Orton could potentially win that, yet Kofi Kingston screws him out of it because he's like, I don't fucking like you, dude, and I just beat you at SummerSlam, so why would I want you to fight again? And you were being a dick to me, so I'm going to be a dick to you. Haha, you don't get another title shot. Now it's going to be Ali. And Ali, or whoever the hell, but I think Ali makes sense because they've done this whole thing with Randy Orton taking out Ali, and they still haven't done the Ali and Kofi Kingston match, which I think will be really interesting. You have Ali against Kofi Kingston at Clash of Champions, and Kofi retains the title, and Orton attacks him again. And then that way it's like, all right, you're not going away. Let's settle the score. We're going to go back to that in Hell in a Cell. Why not do that instead of having count out means they didn't quite have a finish, and then what's Kofi going to beat him at Clash of Champions with like a disqualification or something just to kind of do that? I think that there's better ways.
It was what the ending just came, pardon the pun, with an Orton match, but out of nowhere. Because just an idea of he didn't even do anything to Kofi's son. He just stared at him, and Kofi went crazy, as in okay. Oh God, you looked at my family. No one's allowed to look at my family except me. And just then just starts beating him to death with a kendo stick, which admittedly got the crowd a little bit more on side towards the end of it, but it was just...
Maybe the kid was supposed to say something.
Well, I would have thought get Orton to just get in his face or just grab the kid by the face. Not hurt him anyway, but you're supposed... He's a heel.
He punts the kid.
Yeah. Yeah, he punts it. He brings the kid over and punts him like he did John Cena's father. But
I'd be cool with it. Why not?
Yeah, we don't have to hurt him or anything like that. Just he's supposed to be a heel, so he just grabs him by the face. He doesn't even have to grab him hard or anything along those lines. And Kingston goes crazy about that. Then that's understandable. But
or at least
just
hit
made
the
him
wife's face and just yell, your husband's a failure.
Yeah, and it just goes along the lines of Kingston just comes across as a really crazy guy that doesn't let anyone even look in the vicinity of his family.
So I made this joke to you guys, but it really did bother me a little bit. suddenly a referee knows how to count to 10 without pausing, because the count out aspect of this came from left field. I felt like they just got out there and all of a sudden, and the bell's ringing and they lost track of time. When did that happen? Because I've seen guys out there for at least 45 seconds and the referee will only be at the count of 6.
Well, I mean, that happened in the Lesnar and Rollins thing. Fighting out there for a minute. It's like, 4!
Yeah. I don't know, because I don't know. I couldn't tell for certain whether it was a double count out or it was Kofi Kingston just kicked too much ass, and so he got disqualified for it.
No, they
Yeah.
ended up backtracking, and I think it was Corey who said, yeah, both men lost track of time and the referee counted them out. And I'm like, really? He suddenly was just like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10.
Yeah, I didn't think that I had missed anything, and at the same time I was like, wait, why is this match anything? What the fuck just went on? Like, that went over my head as well. Now, again, granted, I'm writing up 3 articles at the same time and stuff, but it's like, that was not what I was expecting it to happen. I figured something would happen with that backstage, but that ringside stuff. They'd get back into the ring. Kofi would hit the Trouble in Paradise and pin him. And when the bells just started ringing, I'm like, that was a 10? When the hell did that start? Like,
Yeah.
Thought he maybe had some kind of a DQ, but then I didn't see a weapon. Saw maybe there was like a count to 5, and maybe one of them refused to answer the 5 count, but that was just an awkward way to end. And the fact that the crowd was chanting bullshit, you don't want that to be something that happens on your pay-per-views.
And funny
And
enough,
Maybe we should know that.
yeah, and funny enough, they did that the exact same time, in the exact same WWE Championship match last year at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the exact same finish. Guy gets in the face of the guy's family. The other guy goes crazy. There's either a double count out or a double DQ or something along those lines, and we get no resolution.
And Orton's the kind of sleazy person. I'm surprised he didn't get on the microphone and say, I see your wife looking upset. Don't worry, I'll be there, Daddy. And then just Kofi goes crazy. But yeah, it was the exact same finish as Styles and Joe last year. And it soured the whole thing for me. Especially, I hate when, I know it's wrestling and things happen, but how did Kingston have the presence of mind following an RKO to roll to the floor when most people are just pancaked after an RKO? Little things like that bother me, because like, well, if you can do it once, why don't you always do that?
Why can't the RKO come out of somewhere? Like, yeah. I do agree. It's like suspension of disbelief gets kind of cracked a little bit there. Let's see. Here I have to kind of
Don't shit on the Fiend, Tony.
Well, here's the thing. I have to admit that I was wrong about some things.
Okay.
And I also have to say that it doesn't change my mind about some other things. Because what happened here is Bray Wyatt against Finn Balor. If you've listened to the predictions, you've checked out any of my articles and stuff, I am not a fan of this Fiend thing. I think that it's just kind of a repaint, and that's about it. So, hearing that they changed the entrance theme was like, all right, well, that's good. You changed the theme around. I fucking hate the theme, but it works. Like, I don't ever want to listen to this. I liked the old theme, and I actually have that in my music collection because it's just like, it's a good song, whatever. Not a fan of this one because it's not my type of music, but cool. You changed it up. He still has a lantern, but now it's kind of like inside of his head. That's kind of neat. I still feel like, despite how this entrance was cool, it's going to get less and less interesting the more and the more that I see it. And this is the peak that it's going to be. And I still don't care about Bray Wyatt, oddly enough. So this was better than I thought that it was going to be, and I'll fully admit that. And I had more fun with the segment than I thought I was going to, and he changed up his in-ring style more than I thought that he would. But I still feel like, all right, well, thankfully that didn't go as bad as I thought it would. Please don't do any more.
Do you want to start, Rob, or should I?
I mean, like, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's pretty much the most fundamental thing. You know how we sometimes say that people can just have wrong opinions. Your opinion is so far wrong at this point in time that you couldn't even you can't even see the rightness for how wrong that opinion is. This is the new top guy in the company. As you see Bourne right here. If they can do it properly, and I know they fucked up the previous Bray Wyatt character, but if they can get this right, this guy is the anchor for the future of the company. I'm calling it right now. This aesthetic is absolutely incredible, and I know it may not. Like the first time you see it, it's going to resonate with you more than the next few times you see it. But if they can keep his appearances sparing, like they have on episodes of Raw and SmackDown, he reverts back to his Yowie Wowie character, and you have like just the few like beat downs and stuff along those lines, and his matches are saved for pay-per-views and big occasions. You can stretch that out a lot more. I just thought the entrance music was great, the lighting was fantastic, the new lantern was absolutely like awfully creepy, but in such a great way. The spot where he grabs Balor's like neck and just essentially does a neck snap spot was I thought that's kind of a little far, but the
See,
worst.
I thought that what part in particular was hokey.
Well, the character is hokey. I'm not even
Yeah,
gonna deny
but I
that
mean,
side of things.
that to me, I was like, oh, come on, you're gonna pretend like he snapped his neck. Like, I
The-
get where they're going, but at the same time, that took me out of it more than it made me go, oh, it's so cool. He acted like he snapped his neck. Like,
the worst part about this entire segment was the fact that Balor got any offensive.
Yeah.
He should have gotten completely derailed in like 2 minutes or whatever.
Specifically, I didn't like the fact that his offense required putting the Fiend on his back. Like, he did the shotgun drop kick and the Fiend didn't drop, and I think if you would have kept it to that, that'd have been okay. But then he did the double leg trip and the stomp, and the Fiend did not need to be lying down, because whoever finally beats the Fiend is going to be a made man, and this character can win the Royal Rumble. This character can really play around with certain aesthetics that WWE hasn't crossed into yet. This, if handled correctly, as Callum said, can be the anchor for the future. There's no reason that he can't be the Undertaker of the future. And I don't mean to give him that legacy, but the Undertaker is a very hokey character. Yet it works every single time, because when it's handled properly, there's nothing better.
Yeah, I can just pretty much agree with that side of things. You don't want to give them too much of that pedestal just yet, because obviously so many things can change going forward, and based on how they treated the previous Bray Wyatt character, there's a good chance they fuck this all up. But I thought this was as good a start as you could possibly give the character, this new incarnation of Bray Wyatt, and just everything about the aesthetic, especially like the finish of it as well, where he makes him pass out to the mandible claw, and then the lighting switches off, and then it comes back, and he's up on the stage already. I just think everything about it, and the crowd loved like everything up in this entire thing. It was so good.
So good. And the only thing I would say, when I saw Ricochet in a cool full body attire, I think the Fiend needs cool full body attire, because give it a completely new coat of paint, make it feel really just dark and like a different animal entirely. That's the one aesthetic change I would make.
I would go so far to say that this is very likely will be the best moment in WWE's in the year for WWE, in my book.
I am nowhere near on the same page about all that stuff.
Well, that's why you're wrong, Tony. We explained it earlier.
Like I said, this was better than I expected it to be, and I'll give them a lot more credit than I was willing to give them beforehand, because I didn't think that they would even go this far. But I do feel like I don't want to see Finn Balor come back as the Demon and have a match here. And I can't, looking at the roster right now, I can't think of a single person that I really feel like I would get behind in a feud with Bray Wyatt right now. Like, the way that Bray Wyatt had done his character before, and the way that a lot of these things leading up to this Finn Balor feud had been, where I've seen it before, it's just slightly tweaked. I have no means of thinking that they're not just going to go, okay, well then this is what we do, and we're just going to do this exact thing now for every feud over the next 3 years. And at that point, the lantern, the next time I see it, it's not as creepy. And the music, what was it saying? Roar, kill?
Let him in. Let him in.
That's it. It sounded like roar and kill to me.
No, it was let him in, but I think it was being like almost growled. Here's the thing. The Undertaker literally spent 3 years of his career fighting over a mystical urn and came back from that and became one of the greatest characters of all time. You can do the same repetitive shit with a character as long as it's driven and has roots true to that character, it will work. And I can see if they want to put him on SmackDown and put him with Kofi, I can see a House of Horrors match with Kofi Kingston. They need a better house, and they need to do that better. But I think they can do that. I see so much cool shit with this character.
And when,
go ahead.
when we talk about that, we talk about the best case scenario. Because we're not naive enough to think that they aren't going to fuck this up, because history tells us they're probably going to fuck this up
twice.
Yeah, they're probably going to fuck this up. But just at the moment, there seems to be like a huge. I don't know what those possibilities are like specifically, but it just feels like there's a new lease of possibility with this character.
Before there is a chance that they screw it up, where would you like to see this go for WrestleMania? If you had to pick like one person who you think is like, because we've got months, it's only August right now, so we have all the rest of this year, and then we have all leading up to WrestleMania. We've got plenty of time for multiple different feuds, and that could be, you hit on the Seth Rollins thing, you hit on the Kofi Kingston thing, you hit on this, you hit on that. What would be the one that you're like, yeah, but that's the one that I really want to see be like the big one?
Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
He beats Brock Lesnar.
He beats Brock Lesnar because he got fucked out of the Lesnar match a couple of years ago.
And Lesnar plays the babyface?
No.
Why not? Well, why not? They were cheering him tonight.
Yeah, I thought out of those two, he was the babyface out of it. I guess there's either way. It would either be Lesnar or you bite the bullet and you have him beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania.
I like that idea too. So most of what I have for Bray Wyatt would be fixing the mistake. So you either have him beat Lesnar or at least go up against Lesnar. You have him beat The Undertaker for sure if you're going to do it at WrestleMania. Or, because it's so rooted into the character, he needs to fucking kill Randy Orton. Randy Orton burned down the house. And that's like this source of PTSD for Bray Wyatt. So like that is go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the main thing is that he beats a really established star at WrestleMania. It could be Lesnar, it could be Undertaker, it could be Orton, it could be Cena, it could be anyone along those lines.
That's another good one.
But he needs to win.
What if it were Roman?
Then he needs to beat Roman.
Yeah. He needs to win.
I'm fully in on this character. I think this is maybe not the guy go forward, because Roman's the guy, obviously, but just he's this new innovative character in my mind that you need to, if you're going to have this sort of character, you need to go all in on him.
And just like they did with Kofi, this is a character that's had a lot of brushes with success, and you can go a lot of places with that. The Fiend remembers, the Fiend doesn't forget, the Fiend is coming to right all the wrongs. And damn it, I'm excited for it. This got me really excited for what can you do with Bray Wyatt at the Royal Rumble.
Well, even though I don't feel that same sort of excitement, I will fully admit better than I thought it was. And I had written out a whole big thing about how this was going to be a low point, and I had to change it to a highlight. So don't ever, anybody in the comments think that means that I'm never going to admit when I was wrong about something. This was better than I thought it was going to be.
Just let him in, Tony.
We'll see. Roar, kill, apparently.
Speaking of better than you thought it was going to be, let's talk about Brock Lesnar, Tony.
Well, that is another scenario where I need to say, I wrote up a whole big long thing about how this wasn't going to work out. It's going to be a two move thing. And if, at best, it was just going to be Rollins getting thrown around the whole thing. One of the better matches of the night. Rollins wins the title, which I did not see happening at all. And this ended up on a happier note. So I am fully happy about the idea of being wrong about that, because if I say something's going to be bad and I think that it's going to be awful and I'm not going to enjoy it, I want to be wrong. I don't ever want to be like, yeah, see, I got it right and I fucking enjoyed nothing of this, because then I'm not enjoying anything. But yeah, this was a fun match and I fucking liked it. Like, there's just thumbs up.
This is a really good match. I know that I earlier said I really enjoyed the Becky Natty match, but I enjoyed this match as much as I've enjoyed any of Brock Lesnar's matches in recent years, with the extra mile that the guy actually won. Like, I really enjoyed Punk and Lesnar, and Punk lost. I enjoyed Bryan Lesnar. Bryan lost. AJ lost. But Rollins managed to beat Brock Lesnar. This is the first time without any triple threat scenario or Undertaker bails me out or I'm gonna kick you in the dick 3 times. Rollins beat him, and he beat him straight up, and I think that was something that was really missing. And do you have faith in Paul Heyman as a showrunner?
More so now than I did before. Way more now.
And I told you as the entrances were happening, I said, I feel like we might actually get a happy ending here. And I was right by the end of it. I was genuinely so happy to see Rollins win. That's not to say Lesnar didn't look like a fucking animal here. And Lesnar is great at that role. Him picking Rollins up on a tape and swinging him around.
Yeah, that was fun. I like that. That's the Lesnar that I want to see. Like, that's the thing, is I crap on Lesnar all the time, but I crap on him because he is better than what they had allowed him to do for these past... When the hell did he come in?
2012, 7 years.
2012? That first match was the one with Cena, right?
Yep.
So that match was the most fun that I had out of Brock Lesnar since, all this time's gone by, and I keep looking back at that match and I keep going, well, that started off as really, really good. And I thought that this was going to be some major thing where every Brock Lesnar match that would happen would be this amazing thing. And then we got into the habit of him beating the crap at a Big Show and stuff. And I was just like, this is just not fun. And what the hell happened to that match with John Cena? If the guy can pull that off, then why can't he do it with this person or that person or that person or that person? And then you take out half a dozen people or a dozen people or 30 people or whatever it is. I'm like, all right, well, that's just not happening anymore. They're just never going to let him do it. And even the matches with Finn Balor and Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, they were a big step up from some of the other things, but I still didn't feel like they were as good as what he could potentially do. And this was much more on track with that.
I think when Lesnar is motivated, he can really pull out some amazing stuff in matches. I always get to take the opinion that he is as much a performer as he is an athlete and fighter, in the sense that he wants to go out and actually put on a good show most of the time. It's just that based in the storyline they put towards him or the character that he's attached to, it was just Suplex City, and that's his thing. He just beats people with suplexes and then hits the F5 and then you're done. Whereas this was so much more of a back and forth match where Lesnar could still had all those suplexes intact, but he was showing a lot more range and a lot more just wanting to beat up Rollins in any way that he possibly could. I thought the most amount of credit I could give this match is that Rollins went into this match pretty unpopular with the crowd, and he came out and everyone was behind him, and that's an amazing recovery job from how badly they booked him in the lead up to this match, and all the shit that he had to go through in matches with Baron Corbin month after month. He now feels like he's back to being that guy that was there a year and a half ago with the Intercontinental Championship, having show-stealing matches and getting the crowd behind him, chanting burn it down all the time. It feels like, and Lesnar helps him get to that level by producing this excellent match.
Do you think, and I'm going to harp on the Heyman thing a little bit here, how much easier is it if you're Brock Lesnar and you're working side by side with Heyman, and now Heyman is the guy who can literally say, no, this is where we're going. Brock, can you play this role? Instead of it being like, well, I don't know, just do suplexes and yeah.
I wouldn't probably go that far. I think Lesnar has always had a strong element of creative control in his ability to do things. I don't think he necessarily hated the idea of doing tons of suplexes and just being able to wrestle for 5 or 6 minutes and then get out of there.
I think he can be more persuaded now because, Heyman is able to paint a clearer picture instead of it being, well, let's get through this and then we'll bring you back for Mania, but we don't really know.
Well, as far as I've been aware, and obviously I don't work closely with that situation. I'm not in the system, but for the last 4 or 5 years or so, Heyman has pretty much been writing all of Lesnar's storylines. So it doesn't really change it too much, in my opinion, just because of the fact that I think Heyman's fingerprints have been over everything that Lesnar's done over the past, at least since about 2014 or since the Undertaker match.
Well, I liked it, and I'm excited to see where we go with Rollins now. Does he just move on to Drew McIntyre? Does Drew McIntyre just win a 4-way and it's McIntyre and Rollins? Do we get a tease that Brock Lesnar will get his revenge on Halloween in Saudi Arabia? Do we get, will Lesnar be a 5-time, is he up to 5? No, 4-time Universal Champion by the time we're at Survivor Series?
I have no idea who they're going to go with for Clash of Champions, because this could be the type of thing that they prove themselves as being drastically different with their booking philosophy compared to what they've done in previous years, and they go with, here's a random push for Cesaro, where you'd be like, wow, okay, that's happening. Or they could go straight to, well, the only thing that we can do is to bring back Baron Corbin, where you'd be like, God damn it, you just did that. Or we're going to have a fatal 4-way because we don't have anybody that's strong enough. So let's have, who would be in a fatal 4-way? Drew McIntyre, The Miz, and...
The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, and Baron Corbin. No, wait, that's 3 heels and a babyface. So Drew McIntyre, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, and Cedric Alexander.
No, I mean against Rollins.
You mean doing a 4-way with Rollins?
Yeah, Rollins against McIntyre and 2 other people, which
Rollins,
one of them's
McIntyre,
babyface, one's
AJ,
heel.
and
Ricochet or something.
Fuck it. Yeah,
Ricochet. That's going to be weird, and obviously we'll get at least some of an answer tomorrow night. But as much as I don't feel like Seth Rollins has it in him to be this breakout, amazing, super popular, drive the ratings up crazily type of superstar, there was something that was on that Chronicle that I thought was really interesting. And it's one of the only parts of the Chronicle that I really it stood out in my mind, which he had said that when he won the Universal Championship, the sales of the belts for the merchandise side of things skyrocketed in comparison to what it was when with Lesnar. At the very least, people are paying attention to something like that, and that's certainly not a bad thing. So if this stays on Rollins and he has one of those Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels type of title reigns where he's one of the top guys, but maybe he's not the guy, he's not another Steve Austin or something, it's not the end of the world. Yet, I will say, as much as well, let me twist it the other way then. Yeah, I'm not as pumped about the idea of Rollins being champion for the next however many months over some other people that I think would still do a little bit of a better job. But there is no comparison. I am so much happier that this happened than if it would have been on Brock Lesnar. And when that title change happened, because I had joked about this before, I was just sort of like, all right, so does everybody want to go to WrestleMania? Because I had gone with this whole idea of, I wanted to go in the WrestleMania last year, and I just couldn't get tickets because it just didn't work out and whatever. But maybe WrestleMania 36 I'll go. And then once they did that whole thing with Brock winning the Money in the Bank, I was like, well, that goes that, because now I'm not going to want to do WrestleMania. He'll win the title, he'll keep it, it'll just be Brock at WrestleMania. Now that he's not champion anymore, I'm like, all right, well, now I kind of want to go to WrestleMania. So I might be going to WrestleMania 36 when the time comes. Because, yay, no Brock as champ. And if they announce that they're going to do a rematch Clash of Champions, I'm going to be really fucking pissed.
Well, I think part of the reason he's lost the title is Clash of Champions, knowing that, hey, we need every title defended, and we don't want to go back to this well with Rollins and Lesnar. Lesnar take a month or two off, and, Seth can defend against Drew McIntyre. And I definitely think Lesnar and Rollins would probably be in a cage at Crown Jewel.
Oh, God, they need to stop those cages if that's the case.
But I'm less sure that Lesnar will be champion going into WrestleMania than I was coming into this event.
Yeah, I think the just overall match was great. My favorite match of the entire show. And even though I don't think Rollins is the long-term right choice to be Universal Champion, he definitely felt more of a bigger deal coming out of this match than he did going into it. And I'm willing to give him another chance to be at the top and see if, as long as they don't give him Baron Corbin, see what he can actually do with it. And I think this also helps, this match and the quality of it helps confirm my suspicions that Lesnar eventually will go down as arguably the greatest SummerSlam performer of all time.
I watched 2002 with Rock the other day, and then I watched 15 with Taker, and both are wildly different matches, but both are great. And Lesnar does tend to pull it out at SummerSlam. Callum is right.
Well, we have one more thing I want to talk about here, but before we get into that, I want to just quickly mention, if you are a supporter of this podcast and you want to see us do more stuff, then two things that you should be aware of are the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble for Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and A Mango Tees. That's where you can pick up some merchandise, obviously, because that's a merchandise shop, like t-shirts or phone cases or mugs or whatever different things you got that you want to browse on that. But there's also the Patreon. And the Patreon is a direct means to not only keep the lights on, but to make sure that you can get a specific special feature that you would like to see. Because we have tiers that are up there for you to be able to actually request certain special things. Like, if we're trying to figure out what we want to do for the main event of a week, and I've got some kind of a poll, then you've got a lot more weight with your vote when it comes to that. Or if you want to donate to the Patreon for Fanboys Anonymous, then we could do something like a review point of the Rocco's Modern Life special that had just put out. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but I'm going to hopefully get a chance to watch that later on today or so. And that's something to just keep in mind. If you got a little bit of spare change and you want us to keep doing these things, and that's the best way to do that. But I do want to end this off with something that didn't happen, which was anything about the Roman Reigns situation other than that little Rowan and Buddy Murphy thing. And there had been lots of reports on lots of different websites and stuff, which you always have to take with a grain of salt, that they had been rehearsing all this crazy stuff that was going to happen, and this brawl backstage or this big set piece that was going to happen with Bryan and Roman. Do you think that that was all bullshit, or do you think that they changed it?
I think it was all bullshit. I think if they wanted Roman Reigns on the show, he would have been on the show. And maybe you can say, well, reports got out, so they switched it up. But I'm going to go with it was all bullshit. Because I asked you this before, and I'm guessing you don't know who started reporting that. but for me, it would depend on the initial source. And I'm just going to say plans changed. If anything, plans changed.
Yeah, I think based on what we've heard recently about the last minute switches and stuff along those lines, I wouldn't be surprised if it had been planned initially and then they decided to just go with this Buddy Murphy Rowan situation, have Brian just look at it backstage and then leave.
Unless they did film something and they're going to release it as a breaking digital exclusive, you know, Roman Reigns nearly run over by truck outside of the Scotiabank Arena. Because they're in that arena for the next 2 nights. They can always play that at any point.
Or maybe that was like a rehearsal for something that's happening on Raw tomorrow and they just needed to film it backstage and do like a run through and people got it mixed up or something.
Could be.
That's a possibility. But it is a little bit weird that there was no Roman or anything because, I mean, this all did start with the idea of Roman Reigns is going to announce his SummerSlam opponent. And he is one of the biggest names and he is somebody that they always want to focus on. So kind of wondering what's going on with that. They had time. Like, didn't this end around like 10:15 or something?
Listen, I'm never going to complain about long-term story booking or at a show ending before 11 o'clock. And hey, we got Buddy Murphy and Apollo Crews on the kickoff. So 3 random things that you don't normally see, but let's give this one the benefit of the doubt. Until they make it like, oh my god, it was Vince Russo driving the car, I'm willing to give this one all the benefit of the doubt until they screw it up. That being said, I think the 3 Hell in a Cell matches are Fiend and Demon, Kofi and Randy, and Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan.
You want to toss out a Hell in a Cell prediction, Callum?
Well, I'd imagine the Rollins against McIntyre would potentially be one of them, but I'd rather wait until we actually see going along the lines, rather than throw my hat in the ring right now.
Kofi and Orton are the only ones that I think are pretty much guaranteed, but the rest, who knows? We still got Clash of Champions way to go through. We still got the whole rest of August and a little bit of September before that point, and then a little bit of time after that. And can already say between the things that happened at TakeOver and some of the things that happened at SummerSlam, can't depend on me being 100% correct. So, the best guess or the best theory or the best scientific method that you have is sometimes a little faulty. And I want to know what everybody else has to say about this, whether you got things right, wrong, what you're surprised about, what you're happy about, sad about, whatever the case may be. Drop those comments below and tell us what you think about these things that happened on this pay-per-view. I talked about all my plugs, pretty much. I got some stuff happening on eWrestling News. I got some stuff on Bleacher Report, per usual. And there's always other random things that might pop up on Smark Out Moment or elsewhere. So if you follow me, you'll be able to start clicking around and just see all the different kinds of things that I have that I'm working on that you can actually check out instead of the stuff behind the scenes. But Callum has some other things going on. So does Rob. So, Callum?
Well, the thing that I have going on mainly is 2001 Wrestling Odyssey, which is something else that you can find in the archives of Smark Out Moment. Just whether it's on the YouTube or all the other podcast platforms, you can check out every episode we've done so far, which is a monthly breakdown of all the news and events that were taking place in the year 2001. So if you want to go back and check all of those episodes out, then do so. Leave likes, leave comments. Everything is greatly appreciated. Check out the power rankings on the smarkoutmoment.com website, because they're the articles that I produce when you're checking out all the other weekly stuff. And you can follow me on Twitter at WeekMeister14 and pass it over to Rob.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. You should check out the weekly articles at smarkoutmoment.com because we've got some new people heading up the articles, and it's always good to give them more exposure. And yeah, just check out them and their ideas and their editorials because they don't always get to be on these platforms. Now, other stuff I have going on, eWrestling News, of course, WrestleZone.com, and the WrestleZone Daily. I'll be starting Fightful this Friday, so that's exciting. So yeah, if it's wrestling and on the internet, I am likely a part of it. And yeah, that's it for me.
You heard it here first. If there is mud wrestling on the internet, Rob might be participating in some fashion. The way that things are going, a year from now, who knows?
I'll be wrestling Huskus the Pig Boy in mud.
Well, the next thing that you guys are going to be hearing from us on this channel is our hot tags for tomorrow night. And we're going to break down quite a bit of different things, including talking about the last season, this season that just passed by, of Glow, if you are interested in more wrestling kind of content that way. But we're going to break down any of the other kind of hot tags that we need to talk about. And then later on this week, we are going to have a rundown of the whole G1 Climax tournament that just went down over the past month or so. And the predictions contest we had up. Callum is crunching the numbers for that to figure out who won that. And we will talk about anything else that's happening with that whole tournament on that main event. But maybe there's going to be something else. I don't know. We'll see. And if you have any suggestions, drop them in the comments below. But for now, that's going to do us in for this one. Thank you for listening to this Pay-Per-Viewpoint. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.